drawn into a bar next to the arcade, but you spent all of your money before it's made once again.
I'm Ashley Stacey. I'm a musician from South London.
So who were your musical influences growing up?
Well, Oasis, obviously. I think you can see Noel on the wall over there as well. Yeah, I've definitely spoken about this before, but when I was young, I was in the pubs with my parents sort of all the time, you know, at night times anyway. And I just remember my sister had definitely Maybe, but I remember more so What's the Story, Morning Glory being played on the jukebox, and the sort of feeling of the country and, you know, everyone when it came out. So I would say that was the first you know, rock and roll album that I remember. So yeah, definitely them. But Stereophonics, you know, quite soon after. I listened to a bit of everything, like a bit of rap, like a lot of people did back then. A bit of dance music, which was quite big in London, like jungle drum and bass. But then, yeah, back into to sort of carry it through to these days. Arctic Monkeys, Libertines, Love Shadow Puppets. Always sort of listen to the Beatles, the Lars, the Kinks, Verve. They've always been there. I think I've just reeled off like loads. So yeah, they're the main ones. They're probably the main ones, I think. Yeah.
Is there like a certain person that you've seen like on it, like from YouTube or anything like that, growing up, that you've seen that kind of inspired you to pick up an instrument to start with?
Well, the person that inspired me to play was my mate Steve, who I sometimes make music with under the name Stash. And so yeah, when I was at uni and I went to Brighton Uni, he came down. He was in a band called The Unstrung, and they were signed. They were doing pretty well. They were signed by Alan McGee to his label at the time. I can't remember what it was called. And they were doing well, but they had their rows and stuff like that, and it ended up falling apart. But he came down with an acoustic guitar to a party at my place, and yeah, 4 a.m, I remember sat there and he was playing mostly Oasis songs, and I was sat there singing along with him, and it was like blowing my mind that he was doing these songs so well, and also that, you know, when I thought of guitar before that, I always thought of lead, but he was sat there playing the rhythm, and it was a rhythm guitar and a vocal. I'd never really realised how well that works, and it can just carry itself. So yeah, that was a bit of a big moment for me. And after that, I went and bought a guitar and started learning to play. And in terms of YouTube, because I started looking online for you know, people that can sort of teach you and you know, or just you can see versions of songs that you might be able to pick bits up from. There was a guy called Peter Last, who's an Australian bloke, and he does tutorials for, you know, Roses. I missed them out earlier. Stone Roses, obviously, brilliant band. Oasis, you know, just all that sort of good indie rock pop stuff. Yeah, I started using him to learn a few bits. And then later on, I found out he had a group on Facebook where everyone would sort of use his tutorials and then do covers and put them on. And yeah, so he was the main YouTube one, really. There was another guy, James T-Bone Wilson, I think was his name on there, who I used his tutorials and that. And another was just Pete Doherty, because there was loads of Pete Doherty acoustic stuff online, like loads of it. And he, you know, he's from London. When I was getting out and about and watching it, I'd go and sort of, I was sort of obsessed with Doherty for years and followed him around. So I used to, yeah, in terms of YouTube, they were my go-to. It was either Peter Last or Peter Doherty.
Have a gig that, like, one of your first gigs that really stands out in your mind that like made you really fall in love with music?
Oh, right. I think the first, funny enough, right, the first concert that I went to was Eminem at Milton Keynes Bowl years ago, which was really good. You know, different because it was rap and that. But the first sort of, yeah, then I saw Oasis at Milton Keynes Bowl in whenever it was when Don't Believe the Truth come out. Was it about 2005 or something like that? and that was amazing. Like seeing Oasis, you know, the logo come up on the screen that I've known for all these years, and you know, Fucking in the Bushes coming on, and them coming out to that, and just like the adrenaline from that was insane. So yeah, you know, I remember the Eminem one because it was my first, and it was good, but I was a bit younger. But the yeah, just seeing Oasis at Milton Keynes Bowl, that was, yeah, one sort of. Funny enough, I put a status on Facebook today because I've been raving since I was 14, like up in London, you know, like to jungle drum and bass. I'd already been getting out to you know, being naughty and doing stuff I shouldn't, sneaking out and going to these raves and experiencing music, but I'd never been to the concert side of things so much. So yeah, that was good and very different, you know, because it's different watching DJs to watching rappers different as well. But then when you start seeing, you know, people playing drums live and people playing guitars live, it's another thing altogether. And I think that got me more hooked into it. Once I'd seen the concert, I was like, actually, yeah, I love this live rock music. And
can you describe your music in 3 words?
Oh my God, I should be more prepared for this. I'm going to say, I'd like to think uplifting. I'd like to think uplifting. Hopefully, this is so hard. Hopefully melodic, I'd like to think. And I'll say lyrical, because I think that recently I've been thinking a bit more about sort of stories and stuff like that, and also I've noticed that some of the bands that I aspire to, sometimes my sound might not be as good as theirs, but there might be more of a story to it, because, you know, you sort of compare yourself to other people, and I've noticed recently that sometimes even some of my peers, like people that I know that are writing songs, some people that I know are writing, you know, amazing songs, and you sort of compare, because, you know, you sort of think, what could I do different? How could I improve? Yeah, and I just noticed sometimes they're a bit lyrical, I guess, because, you know, the Pete Doherty inspiration, he's a bit of a storyteller. Alex Turner as well. So I think that comes through. So yeah.
You mentioned a little bit there with the writing process. How do you actually find writing a new song?
Normally it's the chords first. So I normally sit there with an acoustic guitar and I'll be messing about until a sort of interesting chord progression comes out, and then go to the melody from there. So sort of, you know, say some sort of nonsense words, or make some nonsense sounds to get an idea of how the melody is going to go, and then sort of jigsaw the lyrics into that. Sometimes I keep a notes on my phone. So if I sort of have a phrase that I like, or an idea comes into my head, or, you know, wake up in the night is another one, or going to sleep and, you know, you've got an idea or something like that, and I'll put them down. And sometimes I find that there'll be like song titles that I've ended up writing down. So I've got a track out on Friday called Palace Pier, and that was one where I knew I wanted to write a song. I got such strong imagery of Brighton because I went to uni there, and I had a good time there. So I loved the place, and I loved the place before I went there. You know, it's such a cool place. And I always knew I wanted to write a song about Brighton. And then one day I was like, I never knew what I wanted to be called, but one day Palace Pier just came into my head, and I was like, it's got the alliteration, the P, and I was like, that's that. Then I built the lyrics around that, but did it how I said, chords, melody, and then took the title and then started just jigging, and then a story sort of came up out of nowhere, really, because it is a made-up story. Yeah, so generally that's how I do it. There's been I think 2 occasions where I've done it, written the lyrics first, and then made the chords fit the lyrics, or, you know, even sung a bit of the melody and made the chords fit. So I have done it the other way. But I find it a bit harder and a bit more forced, but it brings a completely different result. So it is quite fun to do, but you know, I'm quite lazy and I like things to be easy and enjoyable. So normally I'll find some chord progression and then make the lyrics work after.
How do you think it's more difficult to be a solo artist once they've been in a band?
I guess it's situational and different for different people. I think there's some things about so I haven't been in a band yet myself. Well, I've done a duo with my mate Steve a few times and that. But the good thing about playing solo is that it's all on your terms in terms of what gigs you do. There's a lot less logistics, and as I was telling you earlier, I've got two young kids. So at the moment, it's quite good to have gig offers that I can sort of take up or turn down, do what I need to do. I try and play them where I can and that. But it's nice to have the element of no logistics. But then, if you've been in a band and then you're going out to play solo, well, you immediately moving from the big band sound to the acoustic sound, which is obviously different. And then you've got to build a band around you, which is, I think it's doable, because when you sort of get out and about playing, you meet musicians, and there's plenty of talented musicians out there. I think there's probably less decent quality singer-songwriters than there are decent quality musicians. That might just be a taste thing, because there are a lot of singer-songwriters out there. But I haven't met too many that are, maybe it's just style and that, but people that I think, wow, you're great. I'm saying that, I'm not being rude, because I've also met a lot of really bloody good ones. But I just think musicians, there's loads of them. There's lots of people that play instruments and play them to a good standard. So it's doable to get a band built around you. If anything, I'd say, for me anyway, the band thing's harder just because it's just the logistics. But I do have plans to start going forward with a band soonish. I know who I'd like to play bass, and I've got ideas of who'd like to play guitar and drums. So it's just making it happen.
What would you say makes your music stand out?
Does it stand out then? First of all, oh, that's good. Thank you. What makes it stand out? I don't really know. Pete, I find that my original music gets a good reaction from people when I get it out there and people can hear it. So what is that? I don't know. If I knew, I would write 100 more of them. Do you know what I mean? What is it? I guess I write quite a lot of songs as well that you won't hear because they've been no good. So I guess I'm a bit fussy with the quality of them. What makes it stand out? I tell you what I feel is that I feel like I have quite good taste in music I listen to, and I'm quite fussy. So if someone sends me a song and says listen to that, I know normally within 20 seconds if it's for me or not. And I try not to be rude. I'll never say to someone that's awful. I'll go, it's okay and it's not for me, or for whatever reason. So I just like to think that it's probably because I guess everyone feels like they have good taste, because why would you listen to stuff you don't like? But yeah, I'd like to think I've got good taste in tunes, and those tunes sink in, and then I'm sort of really, putting those influences into the songs that I write. People have said before that I sort of wear my influences on my sleeve when I write, which I'm not afraid to do. And I'll sometimes use the odd phrase from a song that I like and put it in. Take little bits, try not to steal, rip off, but more to, tip a cap to, like to nod to, like in hip hop when people sample and stuff like that. I like to hear things like that in other people's tunes, so I'm not afraid to do it myself. Maybe that's what stands out. Classic style songwriting, and in the band, in the style of music that a lot of people know and love. I'm not that adventurous. I don't listen to bands that no one's heard of. So if I did, no one's probably heard of them because they're a bit weird, not very good. So then you might end up writing like that. So it's probably that I'm just very keeping it quite simple.
So you've got a new single coming out this Friday, I believe, on the 12th, if my memory.
Yep.
Oh, I do surprise myself sometimes.
Yeah, well done.
Lockdown hasn't
I can never remember
yet. So you've got one that's next Friday. Can you tell us a little bit more about the new single?
Yes. So it's called Palace Pier. I spoke a bit about it earlier. It's about Palace Pier in Brighton Pier. So I had the song title sort of tucked away on my phone notes. I knew I wanted to write this song about Brighton. I'd been playing Pinball Wizard by The Who, which has got like the double time strumming in it. But the double time strumming in that song, I'm trying to think, goes all the way through, I think. But I picked up my acoustic guitar, probably sat down to play that cover or another cover or whatever, and started working on a chord progression. And at the end of, every however many bars, I started switching into the double time strumming. And I was like, oh, that's quite nice. It sort of like switched it up from slow to fast. And I was straight away was like, this I think is enough to start building a song around. Because sometimes I do stuff like that and think, to move on and start doing the cover. But I was like, oh no, I think I can build a song around this. So got the progression down, and then started writing. And I had visions of this little oik in Brighton, which maybe I kind of was once upon a time. Just sort of being, getting drunk, but I took the story to the extreme. So it's a bit of a tale about, a young person that lives in Brighton that's getting up to no good, and sort of blaming it on the vibe of the town a little bit. So I can't wait for you to hear it and hear the story. And I've done a few acoustic versions on live sets online, so I don't know if you've heard it, but I've played it a few times because it's fun to play because it's quite upbeat. But when I wrote it straight away, I was like, well, it's featured in Brighton, and it's inspired quite a bit by The Who. Also, I think by the Jam, I think there's sort of elements of sort of Paul Weller in there as well. So I was like, this has got mod written all over it. Do you know what I mean? It's a mod. I was like, it's a mod song, and I'd always wanted to sort of write a mod song. It's a bit The Enemy as well. I think We Live and Die in These. It's got a bit of vibe like that. So that's got the brass on it. So I was like, right, I want it to have some of these mod sounds coming into it. Basically, it's got some backwards guitar in it, which is in That's Entertainment. That's got a bit of that sort of, and that gives it a bit of a trippy feel. It's got some brass in it, and it's just got this sort of upbeat piano keys going through it. And it's really light percussion, just to drive it along, because funnily enough, me and the producer sat down and was like, you always think about what sound you want to go for when you're producing a song, right? So we listened to a few, and I was thinking That's Entertainment is about where I would like this to be. And he said, I can't really remember the drums in that. And I said, no, I can't either, actually. Let's have a listen. We listened to it. That song has got no drums in it on the studio track. And we were both shocked. So would have both bet that song had drums in it. It doesn't. It's got some tambourine. And it does. So it was like, well, let's listen to some live versions. And there's a few live versions of it with the Jam, where the drums sound absolutely terrible in it. And it might have been after the Jam. It might have been when Paul Weller. And honestly, it was like, because there is no drums for it. And we found a version of from the Jam, which is like the tribute band, who are bloody brilliant. And they had a drum. The drums that they had put in it worked really well, and was like, oh, that's the sort of rhythm that we want in the song. So we built the drums around that. Bloody hell, I've gone into proper depth here, I didn't. That's how the sound sort of came about, and I was really happy with it, because when I came away from finishing, I was like, that's exactly the song that I wanted to make when I started writing this song. Like, I wanted a mod song, I wanted a Brighton song, and I just done a big tick. So it was one that I'm sort of quite proud of myself. So I just hope that everyone else likes it as well.
You've got an EP coming out in September, I believe, as well.
Yes.
Which is going to be where the single is going to be on the EP, I believe.
Yeah, correct. Yes.
I do my research sometimes.
Well done. Yeah.
So, I know obviously you can't say a lot about the EP at the moment, because obviously it's not September yet, but what can we expect to hear on the EP?
So, yeah, first of all, this gives me a good chance to explain this. I was thinking about doing album 2, because I've got enough tracks for a good follow-up, I think, and more. And then a few average ones that I could make album filler if I wanted to. So I could probably do a couple more albums now. But I was thinking about when you put an album out, you sort of bang, the album's out. You're putting out a lot of songs at once. And I started talking to a few people, one of which is a manager of quite a good band. I won't say, just in case I'm not allowed. But he gave me some advice and said to go down the EP route. and do that instead, and use a few singles to build up a following and keep going. Even though, and I was like, well, even though I've done an album, isn't it like a backward step? And he was like, people will go back to the album. It's a good thing because you could do a couple of EPs and they'll always be going back to it. And he was very complimentary about the album too, which was nice. So I started thinking about that, and then I was speaking with a couple of solo artists. I don't know if you know Jamie Pollock, who's brilliant. I've been talking to him for a year or so, just about music and stuff, and he's signed to Run On Records, I think, or Modern Sky, or maybe both, and he's got an EP coming out. So I was speaking with him about how many singles, because obviously he's been advised by a record label, right? So I'm thinking, if what he's doing is probably what I should do, because it's probably the right thing to do. Because I've got no clue, because I don't have a label and I don't have I'm just sort of bumbling through. But I was asking him, and his plan, which I'm not revealing anything because I know he's said this in podcasts or whatever, is they'll put out 3 of the singles from a 4-track EP, and then the last one will be held back for the EP, which will come out as a physical release. He's doing a vinyl on that because he's got a label behind him. I'm hoping I can do a vinyl, but I'm going to do the same. So there's going to be a few singles. And then I'm going to hold back the last one, which will sort of tie the EP together, because it will be, it will tie into the theme of the EP. I'm not going to say the name of it yet, so there'll basically a few little taster singles coming up to the EP, which, as you said, is planned to be around September. There definitely will be CDs at least for the EP, but I'm looking into if I can make it work anyway to do vinyls, because for Sun Still Shines On You, I had a lot of people asking for vinyl, and I'd love to do that. I did get one made for myself, one vinyl, because I was like, right, it's my first album, I need one. And then people have seen that, and I've had people message me and go, yeah, I'd like the vinyl. And I was like, I can't do that, I'm afraid. So yeah, possibly that it's possible that it might come out on vinyl as well, but we'll have to see.
Do you have any gigs planned for this year, or do you have any plans for the rest of 2021?
Yes, I've got a few gigs lined up that came in today. Actually, I've got 4 gigs with in a local pub called the Lord Hill. It's in Bexley Heath, where I'll do probably sort of 50-50 covers and originals. So 4 dates with them, 3 of which are before we're allowed inside, so they'll be outside, so we've got hope for the weather. I've got a couple sort of in the pipeline that I can't talk about yet because they're not 100% confirmed. They were, but then they're being delayed because of because they've been delayed. So supports for sort of semi-decent bands and acts. Hopefully be able to talk about them. I had a few waiting for the festivals to come back being confirmed, because I had a few sort of festival dates lined up. So I'll post them all as and when, but yeah, they're coming in already, and it's exciting, So let's just, like you say, let's just hope it actually does stick to what the government's plan is, at the moment.
Is there any information that you want to put onto the interview?
Actually, I was going to say the single's going to be out, isn't it? So so go and listen to that, Palace Pier, on Spotify. Information, just to say, go and follow my social pages. Twitter is Ash Stacey Music. So go and follow me on there. Instagram, just Ashley Stacey. Ashley Stacey on Facebook. Spotify is the main one that I'd love people to be following. And in terms of information, just keep an eye out for the singles, really. So 12th of March, this Friday, for Palace Pier. Got the one after that that's going to be mid-May, and the one after that is going to be sort of there's going to be 2-month spaces between, basically. So just keep your eyes peeled for the singles. Pre-save them if you because I think I don't really know what it does, but I think it helps.
It does.
So it helps the algorithms, I'm being told. So it's just like, I'm sort of like trying to get people to do it. So pre-save them, and just keep an eye peeled for gigs, and Yeah, and info as it comes, really.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, nice one. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Nice to speak
No
to you
problem
finally.
at all.
Nice to
Cheers.
speak to you. Have a
And
good
you.
day.
Bye.
See you in a bit. Bye.